Hey everybody, what's up? This is BigPoppaMatt with MaliceCorp and Nerd Mosh Pit. Really appreciate you guys all support. This is our Father's Day little special. This is my dad. This is the Papa of Papa-Matt right here. So we're doing some dad weekend stuff, showing our appreciation for those guys that we love the most out there. Our hetero life mates right here, if you will.
Yeah,
appreciate
sure,
that, Dad. So I brought him in. We're gonna just do a little extra take for you guys, have a little bit of fun. I'm gonna ask him some questions, maybe get some embarrassing stories, some fun stuff out of it for you guys. All right. So Dad, what was it like growing up with a nerd for a kid?
Well, it was pretty obvious early on that you were going to be a nerd.
Absolutely, right?
And that's not meant with any malice. No pun,
no pun intended.
No pun intended.
Keep those dad jokes coming. I like
you were always happy to be active outside, playing sports. You know, you were real active with a basketball team that your mom was involved in.
Yeah, great basketball team. The Bulls. Bulls. Yeah, we were the Bulls that year. That was great.
And you played some pretty high-level high school football and stuff like that, but you went beyond loving electronic gaming. I mean, it was like a genetic defect with you. That's the only way I can say it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, our family's a big sports family.
No doubt. Pretty competitive.
My older brother was a huge basketball player, like in the local high school teams. Great swimmer as well, just all-state swimmer. I mean, phenomenal swimmer.
Exactly.
You big baseball player, right?
Yeah.
You got pretty good with baseball there for a while. Absolutely.
And then got pretty burned on.
Yeah. Well, your long hair got in the way from what I heard.
Exactly.
Back, long blonde hair. This guy used to have.
Old hippie.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll get past that girl moment in your life. But even my grandpa, all state, all Arizona football player.
All right. Went to college on us.
College. You went to U of A. Bear down. Wildcats.
Right
Bear down.
Right on.
One of the other cool things though is, I mean, he was touted as one of the best. I mean, he had records in shot put and discus, all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, sports, and sports guys are always the ones poking fun at the nerdy kids and the gamers,
True.
Nerds. I mean, those famous moments.
That's true. But there was always some polarity, during the 70s or 80s. But I don't think they're so diametrically opposed anymore because they each have that piece to it. And probably in large part, if I think back about it, your grandfather was one of the contributing factors. And I say that because he was always pretty fascinated with technology.
Gotcha.
Just like I was. And I mean, going all the way back to the original VCRs and betas. I mean, he had a machine.
VCR for everybody. Video, what was it? Video
cassette recorder.
Yeah. Old block brown things for all the millennials that don't know what that is out there. So.
And they were like $1,200, and it had a wired remote.
Wired? I did not know the originals had wires. Okay.
Yeah, and your grandmother would, in her own non-cursing way, would cuss him for spending $1,200 on a machine to watch TV for him. She didn't really have
to watch TV for him. Yeah,
that's how she thought.
Because you could record TV on those.
She grew up without TV, and then it was black and white TV, and you get the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and so that was the original TiVo, if you will. Yeah,
that's how you would
But you had to set the times and everything like that, right?
Right. Or you just had to sit there and watch TV for you, so you could pause it through the commercials. There was no automatic way to do that.
No, yeah.
And the quality was left a little something to be desired.
Absolutely.
But you had it.
Absolutely.
So that was important stuff.
TV on film.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's how everybody saw it.
But
on that same front, when I was a youngster, we bought this, my father bought this big giant console television, had a stereo record player thing, 18-inch woofers, on each side of the screen, and it was probably like a 24 or 6-inch screen, like a
24. This Apple computer in front of us right now has a bigger screen than you guys had,
and it was like a Packard Bell, but it was a great big old thing because it was a color television, and most of our neighbors only had like black and white television. Yeah. And blah, 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 blah. But anyway, we always, my dad, right prior to Christmas, would always make some big family purchase, whether it was before microwaves, it was a brand name. It was called Radar Range. And the only people that made them was Amana. And he would always bring some big family gift home. And one year...
What's Radar Range, though?
It was a microwave.
It was, really?
Yeah, but they called it... It was
Radar Range.
And they were It was made by
Space oven.
It was made by a company called Amana. Which it was built by the Amish, who didn't even have power to plug them in. So it was like a really crazy thing. And it was like
the
solid
Amish building technology. It
was like a solid stainless steel deal. It was really crazy. And my grandmother, your great grandmother, you didn't have the privilege of knowing.
Did not, and that was Grandma. Which grandma was that?
That was Grandma Willie.
Grandma Willie. Yeah,
she would
great stories about the lady.
Spend a lot of time with us. Yeah. Great cook, but she was like always grab us and say, "You little boys, get away from that machine so you can have babies." She was convinced. She was convinced the radiation was going to sterilize us.
Sterilize you guys.
You're proof that didn't work. So.
Sex trophy right here. He did it right 3 times. He's got 3 of us. That's for sure.
Yeah. I know there's another bad joke in there.
Oh, we just did it right there. Sex trophies. Yeah, you have proof that you did it at least 3 times.
So one of those Christmases, besides that radar range, because we were always the family was really out there on the cutting edge of technology. And I mean, even going back to digress just a little bit, when your grandpa was a young man, the only television that was available was the rooftop antenna stuff.
Oh yeah.
And there were 3 channels, and you had to have, there was a big giant translator on top of this 8,000-foot peak that Grandpa Papachito and all of Dad's brothers hand dug the trenches and stuff to put this big translator.
So they were their own telecommunication company
to broadcast this signal down into the valley. Yeah.
Why were we not Casillas Bell at that point?
I don't know. I don't know where they skipped the boat, but I remember my grandfather, your great, saying when I was a little guy helping him turn the antenna up on the roof. And
That's funny.
And he said, someday people are going to be paying for television. They're not going to be able to just put the, And he was so far ahead of himself.
Sure enough.
Thought he was going senile.
He's a witch. He's a warlock. He's speaking the future.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like early teens, maybe.
Yeah.
Very early teens for me. Dad came home with one of these, another big giant console. And, this one had a remote control and the big, but for buying that console at Christmas time, it had this crazy shoebox size attachment on it called Pong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was this console? What was the console?
Well, nobody knew. I mean, we were real interested in the new TV.
You guys said Pong. You had the Pong machine.
Had this awesome stereo, that, played 33, 78s, 45s. Had a changer on it.
So what does that mean for everybody out there that doesn't know 33s, all that?
LPs, old wax records.
Old wax records.
And so that this thing had a turntable.
All the rage right now. All the rage again.
Exactly.
Vinyl for all the millennials.
All the rage again, exactly.
Absolutely.
At any rate, we hooked this Pong contraption up, and it filled the screen with these black and white squares and a white, looked like a lime line, around the deal. And basically it was electronic tennis.
Yeah, Pong, man.
But the neighbors, for days, between a few days before Christmas until way after New Year's, the house was crowded with the neighbors want to dial these 2 wheels. You had a controller that was...
You said 2 wheels.
Each one had a wheel.
Yeah.
So I had a wheel, you'd have a wheel. They were wired, and you controlled this goalie.
So basically you had wired oven knobs.
Exactly. No, that's a perfect description. It's a big white knob. And by the end of the last week, these things were grimy because
everybody's hands. And y'all had grease because you're all greasy.
All the neighbors. And you didn't have a lot of options. You could control the size of the paddle that was the goalie.
Okay.
And so you could change that up. So we would always handicap the neighbors and give them a big one.
You guys.
Because you could make ricochet shots.
We like to call that easy mode now for all the gamers.
But it made the most obnoxious sound. It's like boom, 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 and your grandmother, mom would say, "Shut that thing off." After about 7 hours.
I was gonna say, but how many hours was that going on in her head?
So I guess to a different extent, I was a little bit of a nerd myself.
There you go. Well,
short stint.
I didn't realize my roots were so entrenched in our system that way. Yeah.
There you go. And then, when I had my own family, we, a lot of the same. Your older brother got a Nintendo console. That was a big deal. That
Nintendo.
That was the big prize.
Yes, the Nintendo. Yeah,
and that's when Star Wars had first come out.
Well, so I heard there's a myth of this Nintendo console and how he received it. Do you remember how he received this Nintendo console?
Yeah, it was. He was anticipating it. And
Absolutely.
He with certainty he had it, and it was a little bit like the Christmas Story and the Red Ryder BB gun.
Okay. We'll come back to Red Ryder BB gun later. I got a story for that one.
After ripping through all the rest of the presents, there was no Nintendo console to be found.
No Nintendo.
And he was pretty disturbed, and you could see it. And we played that awful mean parent trip on him, to set him up with all that anticipation and everything. And he finally, the last box, and then another box, and he finally gets to it. That's the Nintendo, and of course,
there it is.
Glory be.
Glory, the heavens rained down upon the Nintendo,
and it was a big deal. And it was,
I mean that was quite a few $100s back then.
At the time,
the 80s.
It was like a week's pay, probably.
Yeah, NES, the old NES console, Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, did he get it with the robot? Did Rob the Robot come with this by any chance? Did you guys get one of the OG originals?
We did not.
Okay.
No.
So it was a couple. He's all right. A couple generations later. It's all right.
It was a couple generations later, and we unwittingly and unknowingly, there weren't any studies about time in front of video screens and stuff like this, because pretty much nobody did anything but watch TV. And
at that time, consoles had been dead for a while.
There was the Atari console had been out there, and it didn't really seem to catch on real well. I mean, everybody had one, but I don't know.
But it was mostly in the arcades where a lot of people were playing games.
Exactly, and so it brought Pong and Space Invaders and stuff like that into your home. But the Nintendo really kind of revolutionized that, and it unwittingly, became this incredible parenting tool.
No, really? Okay, yeah.
There was such a fascination about, screen time.
Okay.
That it was easy to hey, if you don't behave, there's no time.
Well, and here's
the same thing with you.
You did the same thing with me, and here's the thing. The reason why I remember it so much is I remember these words more than anything. Is gaming is a privilege.
Yeah.
You always told me that. You always told me gaming is a privilege. And one of the things, you guys were very big on grades in the house. If I brought home a C, the console was gone until the next report card.
True story.
If I brought home a B, it was gone like a whole month.
I don't
it would still get wrapped up.
You ever doing that? You were pretty easy. You were pretty easy.
I had a pretty decent, I had pretty good grades, and one of the reasons why though is because I knew if I didn't, I lost privileges. Yeah. I lost that gaming privilege.
And we always back that up. Your mom and I.
You guys. I remember opening a report card one day, and it was probably second or third grade, and I knew I had been screwing up a little bit. Trouble. I was not doing the best I could have been in school, and I remember dreading opening that report card. And when I opened it, because Mom had come home, and she was like, "Go and open your guys' report cards. Let's see, how the day is going to be here." And I remember just seeing that one C and just losing my mind. Like, it's gone. I'm losing this. I'm so dead. And I just remember going and wrapping the console up. I just pulled it off the wall, pulled it out, wrapped it up, put it in your closet.
Self-deprivation.
Yeah. Well, I just went for it. I was just like, you know what? It's gone. I'm just going to do this. So I don't even have to look at it. I don't want this moment to happen or be any worse than it's going to be. And I remember putting it in the closet and you coming home, seeing the grades, and the one question you asked was, "Where's the console?" I said, "In your closet." He's like, "Good, it'll stay there till the next report card."
Yeah, it was better than corporal punishment, right?
It was way better. It was way better. But here's the thing, and the thing was though, is I busted my ass. I worked hard. I was doing a bunch of yard work trying to earn the console back. But you guys stuck to your guns.
And you bought a lot of games with your guns. You bought a lot of games with your own money. And
Absolutely.
That was before GameWorks. Yeah, and you could trade
here's the thing I remember most about that time though. Is when I'd bring home when I get you straight A's, you guys would let me go and rent a console that I didn't have. So I could go and rent the Sega. I could go rent Sega and play Sonic, and because I had Super Nintendo, so I'd go rent Sonic on a whole console. I could just rent a console, and that is something, by the way, that Netflix and all these guys need to get on, because to be able to rent a console would be awesome. Like, I think that'd be a really cool thing nowadays, especially for a lot of kids that have to go and steal games and stuff like that online.
Right.
Where now all of a sudden you're kind of dipping into some bad areas, things like that. But man, if you could just rent like a PS4 for a weekend with you and your buddies,
totally makes.
It'd be awesome.
Make all kinds of sense.
Because I can't tell you how that was the easiest advice you guys ever had was, I want to play video games. I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to work hard to have good grades to play some extra video games. So. And you guys let me have sleepovers with all my buddies, and I remember always being the cool kid on the block because I could have Sonic and Super Mario in the same household, even though I didn't own. So.
Yeah, but between you and your brother, you know, they always seem to be the latest, greatest titles. Used to be pretty close at hand.
Oh man, always. I just always remember fighting games with Manny, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, just brawls.
Of course, I wanted you to be
brawls.
playing Frogger and Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
You know, from a parent's standpoint of view, there was that component of it that, you know, had that touch of violence to it. But in my world and in hindsight, it's not about you know, that making too huge of an influence on you, because it's about how you deal with what you see and what you're aware of, and separating reality from
and that's one thing you guys
fantasy.
Always did really well, because Mom was always a huge movie buff. And I remember her always letting me watch movies that probably weren't appropriate for a lot of kids my age. Yeah. I remember watching like Aliens, the second Aliens, prior to being 10 years old, like and it terrifying me to death.
Yeah.
And then Manny brought home the original Aliens, and it just warped my mind on that first one. And you guys were just like, you know, it's not real. It's okay.
But you know, every generation has one or two like that. Because I'm still terrified of The Exorcist.
Oh, The Exorcist!
Yeah, right?
Scariest movie of all time. I was just having a conversation with Jen yesterday about it, because they were looking for scary movies. Yeah, and I was like, Exorcist, hands down, will still scare you to death at this point.
Yeah, if you ever darken the door of a church, there's something about The Exorcist that just terrifies you, especially if you're Catholic.
Yeah, growing up Catholic like this,
so
I mean...
They all know you served time as an altar boy?
They do not. I served time as an altar boy, and it was a great time as an altar boy. I had a great priest, so don't be making any jokes about my priest. Yeah, Father Mike was the man.
No bad jokes.
Father Mike was the man. He was great. He taught me a lot of great life lessons. That guy was fantastic. Yeah. Cool. So,
well, and as a kind of a precursor to that, I never really grasped the whole, you know, nerd aspect of life per se. It seemed like an incredible waste of time and resources to one extent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then it had that learning component into it. Yeah. But again, because we had always kind of stayed on the cutting edge, even before you were born, I had an Apple IIc computer.
I always remember having computers in the house. And we always had a computer.
There was a Fantasy Quest game, and you'll probably know it. I don't remember the name of it, but you only got written descriptions of this mage that would enter, and there would be Zork. It was actually before Zork.
Oh, so Mystic maybe?
Nope.
We'll figure it out. If you guys know what he's talking about, he's going to finish the description.
It was a first generation one.
Nerdmoshpit@gmail.com. Let us know what the answer is.
You would take graph paper, because you would trace your steps to the right, to the left.
Oh, you had
the door to the, because there were no graphics.
So I remember doing that with my Uncle Zach. Yeah. Him and I doing that with the original Zelda, making maps for Zelda on the original Nintendo.
Well, on the Apple IIc, there was a floppy disk, and as you progressed through the game, you actually had to turn the disc over.
Turn over to side B.
And wait for it to boot. And, you know, you had your graph paper all stacked up.
Yeah.
But, I was young professional at that time, working for a big mining company, and, my friend and I would stay.
Were you playing games on the job, Dad? Were you pulling salary, playing video games?
This was at home, but it was with, a good friend of mine that worked for the same mining company, and we would, we'd play till midnight sometimes, trying to work our way through the maze and trying to visualize it. So, that's the fascinating piece of how that gaming technology has evolved, because it went literally from, you had to put in your own mind what seeing a door on the left meant, to then getting a graphic representation of it, but in 2D on a green screen.
Absolutely.
And then, they started, getting GUI interfaces and all that crazy stuff where those graphics that, and that's kind of where I sort of, left that scene, and that's sort of where you got started into it. So I understood the mentality and the fascination of particularly Quest games. Yeah. But I could never understand how you guys could spend weeks trying to beat Mario Brothers or Mario
Me and Michael,
Kart,
me and Michael all the time.
For real, I said, "What do you win when you beat it? What do you get? You gotta go buy another game."
We get a princess, man. Yeah, we got a princess at the end of it. That's what we got. We got a princess.
Yeah, the fascination with it was a little difficult for me, but it's because that part of my life had moved on. But I knew it was always really deep rooted with you.
Absolutely.
It's never left you. And it went from even, beyond the gaming, the whole science, fantasy genre.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like even with movies, and you probably, you may or may not remember, but when you would be watching Star Wars as an example with your brother, he would plug in one of those VCR tapes.
Yeah.
That we had the Star Wars movies on, and you would just run over and grab my leg and say, "Dad, read,"
Because I couldn't read it. Yeah, I couldn't read it.
Galaxy far away, and way before you learned to read, you could recite that
the whole scroll,
the whole scroll as it went through. And of course, between you and your brother, you guys would get in fights, arguing about what the line really was. Did Han Solo say, or no, he said, and then you'd fast forward it and rewind it.
Fast forward to
but in the end, either one of you could have played the role of any one of the characters because you knew him by rote.
Well, I remember Star Wars parties. So I talked about Star Wars party in one of my articles with Grandma.
Right.
And I remember being able to recite every Han Solo line of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
No. Every single one. I could do it.
No surprise to me.
Didn't need the movie, nothing.
Well, look what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Here we go, right?
Hey, everybody. Yeah. I won't do that for you now. Don't remember it.
But that's one of the really fondest things. It makes the whole thing sort of like multi-generational. Because I remember when Star Wars first came out, and I was teenager-ish with a motorcycle, and my Uncle Jim, your mom's younger brother, he said, you guys got to come down here and watch Star Wars. And he was trying to explain, the storyline, and I hadn't seen the book and hadn't even heard of the movie.
Uncle Mike, you mean?
Uncle Jim, which was Uncle Mike's brother.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so we rode our motorcycles down to them, and stood in line. It was like their 7th time going to watch Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
And of course they, and so, I mean, it was, like crazy phenomenal. I mean, nobody had ever seen anything like that on a big screen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a long, long time. It was not like nowadays, it gets out of the theater and then it's on Blu-ray or DVD and, or it's on Netflix.
Absolutely.
And, it was out in the theater, and that's the only way you were going to see it, and it stayed that way for quite a while before you could buy it on VCR or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, about 8-9 months, a year, or maybe even 2?
I can't say it, but it seemed to me like it was a year or more before you'd actually, be able to get it for your home viewing pleasure, as they would say.
Well, and when I was a kid, I mean, it was always the summer movies, and then you could get them for Christmas.
Right.
That was like the big thing.
And some of them were pretty anticlimactic, but Lucas created something that was just entirely different. And of course, you look back on it now. I remember how fascinated I was with that, very first Star Wars movie with what we would call technology at the time, and it just seems so primitive now when you look at it. But you still kind of favor it because it was the pioneering cut of it.
But what's really cool is you can watch those that technically what they call 4, 5, and 6, which are the originals.
Right, exactly.
You can watch those now, and their graphics are better than 1, 2, and 3 because they were all practical.
Yeah.
They were all the miniatures and things like that and filmed. And what was great about those Star Wars is there was green screen for sure, but not a ton of it.
True.
Now, in the newer ones, the 1, 2, and 3, those Phantom Menace and things like that, there was so much green screen, so much digital. And at the time, once again, greatest technology you'd ever seen, but that digital media like that doesn't hold up as well as those practical effects did. Right. And so it is pretty amazing to see how well those 70s, movies from the 70s, how well they hold up today because it was practical effects and practical items and things like that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, of course, that's just about how the progression of life goes. Who knows what your kids are going to see or what's next 20 years or 30 years or 50 years from now. We just sit down and
they already got VR helmets for us and everything now, so it's just a matter of time before they just plug us in and we can do all that.
I've been playing poker at the World Series, and they keep the reel ice cold.
Yeah, they're trying to freeze you out, hoping that you get the flu before you win their money.
I think just to keep us awake. There's thousands of the best poker players in the world. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've been having a fun time, so... Well, that's awesome. So I always remember growing up with a computer, like I said. So one of my favorite memories as a kid was holiday times, Christmas. Sure. That was like one of the...
wasn't, right?
Yeah, right? But it's one of those times where I would, that would be like the big game of the year. Like every once in a while I could maybe catch something with my own money, or maybe I'd get some good grades and maybe catch something else. But Christmas, maybe one, maybe even 2 games I'd catch pretty regularly. But what was even better is me and my cousin Michael would go and get like a good 7 to 10 day stretch just being able to play games.
Exactly. Out of school,
on break. Obviously, we were the only 2 boys at the time of that age, because it was Mandy above us and then all the girls below us in age. So this was my only time to hang out with my guy cousin right here, because Manny and Andy just beat me up a lot of the time.
Not to be stereotypical, but when it all started, girls pretty much didn't play for the most part.
They did not.
I know that's all changed now. Don't anybody be offended. If you have any bad email, send it to Matt.
Papa of the Papa Matt.
But, that was just my observation. The girls had things to do and the boys were...
We would try so hard to get them to play with us, but we were vicious and we would brutally beat them until it was no longer fun for them.
And we were trying real hard to get you off of those consoles.
Absolutely,
we were like, what's long-term effects? Playing all night long for 2 days.
Yeah. No, I remember literal moments of Aunt Beth, bless her heart. Me and Michael would sit in a room for 5 days, and all we'd eaten was Taco Bell and Mountain Dew, for that whole time. Yeah. And we hadn't left that room, and maybe slept for a couple hours each night.
There's a South Park thing about that, and it just makes me think of you and Michael.
We did not need colostomy bags, and no one came in. So
you're no worse.
No, definitely not. The thing is, though, what I loved most about that is it was that privilege thing again, because I do remember that same bad year I had with some grades for a little while there. I got a book for Christmas that year.
Oh, don't ask me to remember what it was.
I know what the book was, because I still have it. Okay. It's still in my house. I carry it with me on every move I go to.
Oh, boy.
The Hobbit.
Oh, wow.
And that's what kind of started my literary path as well, of jumping into stories and jumping into books. Because my first book I got when I did not get a video game that year was The Hobbit. And I read that thing all Christmas break, all summer. And it took me way too long to finish. I should have been finishing that thing in a breeze.
You always enjoyed reading. There was no doubt about that. Yeah. It's because you were read too young.
I was always read.
You guys always in utero. And but it's funny because comparatively, from a relative standpoint of view, I see you reading every once in a while too. But it didn't seem like you spent near as much time reading as you did, on the console per
Absolutely.
Se. And I guess for that reason, I just maybe a little bit unaware of it. But there was what was the other one that was in there? And it didn't come in book form, but I remember you telling me one Thanksgiving when you tell all your secrets of decades past. Mm-hmm. You were telling me at one of your brother's friends sleepover, and he was just enough older than you that you were the punk little brother that didn't
Absolutely.
want to have
Always was the punk little brother.
I remember you telling me you snuck out while they were watching the Leprechaun.
Oh man, the Leprechaun was so terrifying.
Like you were still traumatized at 18. You just talking about it.
The Leprechaun, man, the Leprechaun. So here's the Leprechaun. Now, if you guys watch that movie, it is the dumbest, worst movie ever. But when I watched it,
it has a lot of
jump moments, especially in the beginning. But the thing is Mom told me not to watch that movie. Yeah. Because she knew they were going to watch it.
You confessed that sin years later.
Because you know why, though? The thing is I had recurring nightmares of it.
Yeah.
For months. Wow. Where you guys would catch me on the couch sleeping.
You wouldn't even eat Lucky Charms.
Oh, never. I still can't. Still can't to this day. Little creepy Leprechaun.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I watched it when I was probably 21, so 7-8 years ago now. Yeah. And me and all my buddies, we were drinking at the house at a Halloween, and Leprechaun comes on. They're like, "Dude, have you guys ever seen this movie?" And I'm like, "That movie's terrifying. Don't turn it on." And they're like, "No, like this movie is so funny." And so I'm like watching it, and I'm ready for just this awful horror movie. Yeah. And as it's continuing, they're laughing. They are roasting me. I'm being every name of a vagina you could call me. I was called that so many times and the whole thing, then it became a torture of, we have to watch this now to show him how bad it is.
Right.
And it was embarrassing.
Some things are just hard to get through.
Yeah, like The thing was, I love scary movies, but for some reason, Leprechaun destroyed me.
You.
It destroyed me. Yeah. It was the first 15 minutes of that movie, scary. The rest of it, nothing. But so here's the thing, though. I bring up Michael and everybody because when we go to Michael's house, he had some of the greatest PC games. And Uncle Gary, just like you, had a lot of technology. Right. And he'd have a couple of computers in the house.
Major Mac guy.
Major Mac guy was the thing. So we always, when I was growing up... I
don't know how Michael snuck those PC things into his house.
Now Michael has PCs because Michael's a gamer. My cousin Michael's a huge gamer. And he has PCs purely because all of games basically run better on that.
Knowing Uncle Gary, he might have bought the PCs to keep Michael off of his
maybe,
Macs.
Maybe.
Because he's had every model of Mac ever made.
And that's the thing. Every one. And his garage was stacked with those models.
Every model. He's had it.
He's had it, absolutely. And the thing was, I always remember you guys talk about PC versus Apple. I mean, and this is back in the 90s, the PC-Apple conversation was happening. What was it about PC that was it easier for you? Did it line up with more stuff? Like, what was it?
Well, I did the big departure thing when graphics got into the mix. So I really, in my universe, the PC was nothing more than a work tool.
Gotcha.
Which started that whole trend of
ran Excel a lot better.
Doing well, it was Lotus Notes.
Lotus Note. Yeah. Oh, geez, yeah.
But it was just all about spreadsheets.
What was
keeping track of
Encarta? I remember Encarta for helping me with my homework because it was digital encyclopedias. Yeah.
Which were just little, as much database they could pile
into a 3.5-inch floppy
with some little JPGs or whatever. Graphics pictures they were moving over.
Absolutely.
So they're basically just copies of an encyclepedia on a floppy.
They were, yeah, absolutely.
You'd hear the
page
around. They had to add that audio to make it realistic. Right. Yeah.
It's like turning a book at home.
Fact, Jack, true story. But initially, a lot of I remember when the mouse came out, it was a big deal because everything was done with screen commands.
Oh,
everything was moving the cursor around with the up arrow, down arrow, side arrow, or at best a wheel.
A wheel, yeah.
And then when the mouse, came out, that was a huge.
The mouse.
And then it,
now it's a trackpad.
Went from that to trackpad, and I just watched this thing.
Touchscreen, yeah.
Recognize your puss to
pull this thing
to
off.
log on. You didn't even have to punch a number or swipe a fingerprint. Or
I would pull the screen out for you could see it's a dual screen tablet right here actually, but I'm afraid the mic won't work if we pull it out.
Let's don't do that. Then.
Later on, I'll show them later on.
All right.
But so thank you for the kind of history there. What's that like? What was the Star Wars gatherings? So I actually wrote about the Star Wars gatherings or Star Wars parties.
Right.
What do you remember about those?
Well, and you have to remember. I mean, take it back because you did this great little expose about how you would go to those parties with your grandma.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shameless plug.
She loved doing that with her grandkids.
Absolutely.
And you cousins were in a pretty tight-knit chronologically. I mean, comparatively speaking. There was the older ones and the younger ones, but you all got around tight with grandma and the food that you ate and the things that you did. But those Star Wars parties were happening because your mom and I or your uncle and I or whoever, we would,
go party?
Well,
you guys would ditch us to go party?
Sometimes, but more often than not, it's just that we were busy with some other facet of our life,
Well, you guys,
and so it was like, hey, can you guys watch the kids? She goes, well, bring them all over. We'll have a Star Wars
We'll have a party, yeah. Well, and the thing is I mean, I know my mom was a lot younger, Christmas show were younger, things like that. You guys were pretty young raising us. So, I mean, I
can't speak to what was actually going on at the parties because I didn't participate in most of them, but I knew that you were in great hands.
Absolutely. The best.
You guys talked about that for weeks.
Grandma Mary.
So whatever was going on, you guys were sure digging it. And then, in the very recent past, for her birthday, and, when we all got together again to go to the theater to watch watch Star Wars again, it just brought all that back. And that's what being a dad is all about. And those moments and, where you see the family bond and your kids being responsible. And probably every dad's, the best thing you can do for your dad, everybody out there, is to just do it longer, better, and greater than they did. That's what every parent wants to see, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean like the shallow things like, financial. You want your kids to live a better life and have a longer life expectancy and all that kind of stuff. But you want them to have integrity, and you want them to have a foundation that, helps them make good decisions and not screw people, because whether people attribute it to, video games and shooting up and, bang banging and all that stuff, it really comes down to just your personal integrity and whatever instills that in people to make the right, because I think one of the old clinical definitions of integrity is doing the right thing when nobody else is watching.
Right, when no one else is looking.
And that's really it in a nutshell. And when you see people that, are in prison or having issues socially, or even the clinic, the sociopaths per se, they don't have that in their psyche to have integrity. They'll take from you. They'll cut the deal. They'll cut the corner. They won't do the right thing when people are watching. And that, it seems so fundamental and easy to me, but a lot of people in this world, especially now, seem to have a lot of trouble with it.
Absolutely, and it's always one of those things where, I'm not going to lie. I definitely think about you and Grandpa and my mom and things like that, where when I'm making decisions like that and I'm having these big life moments, I like to call you guys just to make sure. Exactly. And sometimes it's not even asking for advice. It's like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. Either tell me I'm about to jump off a ledge and do something dumb, or am I kind of on the right path with it?
Yeah, and that's really been the case with you. But that in and of itself is kind of, the reward, because it's like you like to, first you like to know that you want to call us.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
And even if
call
it's
your
just,
parents, they love that. They
even
love
if it's just to tell you what you're going to do, but that you value our opinion is a big deal too. It really is. And I hear it from your grandpa all the time, and I, to a lesser extent, I try to make contact with him at least once a week. We're 5 hours apart in the car and an hour and a half in the plane, but every time I call him, it's like, how's Matt? What's happening to you? How come they haven't called me? I'm like, they're busy.
I call Grandpa pretty often.
And sometimes the call is, I just heard from Matt yesterday. So it is a big deal to them. Yeah. And when they get to be their age, you don't know how much longer you have them.
Well, and here's no slight to you, but Grandpa Manny is like my favorite person in this whole world. By the way,
he's a lot of people's.
Absolutely,
for a lot of good reasons.
There's very few things in this world when I'm like stressed out in traffic and things like that, or I'm having a crazy day. Yeah. Calling Grandpa, talking to him while I've been sitting in an hour of traffic. Yeah. No better conversation to have with a man.
It whittles life down to what's really important.
Absolutely.
And what the important things in life aren't things.
It's the memories and the people around them. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about integrity. So one of the things is, and you kind of hit on a little bit like the violent games, things like that. But now that's a big thing, and especially right now, it's a lot of topics for a lot of kids that are having shorter attention spans and having different issues and things like that. And we just spent time with my nephew, your grandson Anthony. He's 2.5 years old, and he's going to be growing up, and he's going to be gaming, and he's going to have access to the internet now. That we never had. And this kid he not only will he have the access, he already has it. He's got the iPad. I watched this kid at dinner, and he was soaring through YouTube and videos and apps and all of that.
And thank goodness they have great parental locks, because you can limit him to Booba and Spider-Man.
Yeah, right, yeah. Peppa Pig and Spider-Man.
Right.
But one of the things I wanted to talk about was, so there was a big integrity moment for me growing up. Yeah. And it was a big, you got to do the right thing moment. And I had a BB gun at one point growing up as a kid. And
oh, boy.
I remember getting this BB gun. And one of the big things I remember about it was all of my cap guns, my water pistols, everything got thrown in the trash when I got this gun.
True story.
And I was kind of like, whoa, those are mine. Yeah. What was that about? Why would you, what was that about?
It was just our take on it, and it's such a touchy topic in this world.
Yeah, we're not going to get into politics or anything like that. We are both gun owners. We understand that they're weapons.
If you do or you don't, that's your choice.
Completely you.
But for sure, when you make the decision that you're going to allow a child to have a firearm, because make no mistake, a BB gun's a firearm. It's not rimfire, center fire, but it can shoot your eye out. It could kill under certain circumstances.
You'll shoot your eye out.
In the ear or something.
Absolutely.
So it's like guns aren't toys anymore. Kids grow up playing cowboys and Indians and all the other things that they did, army and but when you allow a firearm that has the potential to do significant damage or cause death, you have to draw the line and you have to delineate. So it was like, okay, and again, because your older brother Manny, he was steps ahead of you, and he had center fire rifles and a small shotgun, and he knew how to use them safely and had done all the NRA stuff. And
and really, once again, you guys, like, this is not my dad telling you how to raise your kids or your kids how to do any of that. It's not this. It is a story that made a lot of impact on my life and the way I make decisions and the things I have to hold true, and integrity. And that's the word I wanted to just touch on with this is integrity. Yeah. So before you make comments or anything like that, it's an integrity story of his beliefs and why he had to make some decisions on it. So.
And because it's certainly not a political alignment. His auntie Beth that he talks about, my sister, her philosophy on that was absolute polar 180. His cousin mom, Michael wasn't even allowed to have toy guns.
Yeah, my mom refused for me to have any weapons in the house. Yeah, when we were growing up.
Her take on it. And you all turned out okay in spite of it.
Yeah, and in spite of it, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was just our take on it. That when it moves to reality, and at some point, the gaming is the reality, but you have to eat and take care of your hygiene and earn a living and be responsible in school.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
And there's a point there where it all sort of interferes because there's still only 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're praying or gaming or
whatever it is,
acting out and
acting a fool, getting lit AF.
and just to reach back, I think the game, to say that any of the problems in our society are related to violent video gaming and stuff like that, I just don't buy into any of that. I think part of that whole scene, and I'm not a isolationist, but I can't run the rest of the world. I really don't care to that extent. But what I can do is control my world.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is make sure that there's a balance and that you have some basis to make intelligent decisions. And you'll skip every once in a while. You won't. But my sort of take on that is the only people that don't make a bad decision once in a while are people that don't make any decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got to be able to make decisions. You've got to be out there and get to do the right thing. And I think like today that we're doing this is like the perfect example of it because it was kind of fun for you, or I get the feeling it was. It was certainly fun for me. I was on my way home from work.
We're gonna hold on to that one story because we're gonna keep on track here.
Okay, with the
BB gun.
Okay,
so I get the BB gun for Christmas or a birthday. It was definitely a big event because I remember it being this whole thing.
You've been wanting it for a while.
I've been wanting it for a while. We had guns in the house, and I was ready to step into that world and have my own firearm. And we got rid of the toy guns, and we had very big conversations about how this was used and what it was used for, which I loved. And I was so into it. And you helped me, you showed me all the parts and how they worked and what they were for and what was going on and how to load them and what to use and what not to use and all these things. And for probably 2 weeks straight, you only let me shoot this BB gun at a target that was attached to like a wooden pallet.
So nothing could rebound. And we thought we had done everything just right.
Yeah.
And so I'll just cut that story short and tell you that Big Papa Matt here, after all that training and agreement to throw out all the toy guns, shot the neighbor.
I shot the neighbor kid. It was not out of malice or anything. It was definitely a complete accident. I felt awful about it.
I hope she'll never see this online. So say if it gets out on the internet, it lives for Cassandra.
She'll know who it is. Yeah, Cassandra. What's up? How you doing? Like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching it, please.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I remember after
she's
that
like
moment,
a mother of 3 or 4 now or something.
I know she's a mother and she's a great mom. I hope she had a great Mother's Day, and I hope your husband has a great Father's Day.
Yeah,
and your
family.
Dad, Dave, right? David, I believe was his name.
Dave Fletcher.
Dave Fletcher. This man right here, and it's kind of cool that it came over to him because I felt awful. I felt so bad that I shot her. I was crying in the hospital, and he just walked up to me, gave me a big hug, and said, "Don't worry about it, man. She's tough as a copper penny." I was like, I don't know what that means, but it's cool. She's tough. I like that.
Pretty tough.
And but I remember coming back, and immediately the gun was destroyed. Yeah. Immediately thrown in the trash.
You were irresponsible.
No conversation. I was irresponsible. I lost my privilege
for them
to own that and operate at that point. And I'll never forget that. And it wasn't because it was like this traumatic moment or anything like that. But what it was integrity. You held up to your word. I broke the promise of being safe with that weapon, doing the right thing by you, and I lost that.
I never thought that was very like cruel or anything from my
No,
standpoint.
it definitely not.
It's just about credibility.
It was the right move. It was the right move.
If you didn't believe me, it wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't going to happen, right?
Let it slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
absolutely. So that was just always something that really stuck with me, that you have to hold your word, and you always did a great job of that. And I want to thank you for that. Like you always did.
I always tried to do right. I'm sure I blew it.
Living with you out here in Vegas.
You don't look any worse for the wear.
I mean, as you can see, I'm a pretty healthy looking guy. So I eat well and I do good things. So obviously,
he feeds himself too.
Yeah, I swear, I don't live with this guy's house. So you guys know this is not where I usually record. So the cool thing about that though was, it's one of those moments that when I think about having to do the right thing, no matter how tough it is, no matter how much it's going to break someone's heart, no matter what's going to happen with it, no matter how controversial the decision is going to be, no matter what someone else might have told you that it was cruel or wrong, whatever you did, it was the right decision to do. And you very often made great decisions with that kind of stuff. So
that's what being a dad's all about.
It was a big integrity moment that I really
and hearing it from
appreciate.
you is what makes it all worth it.
And sorry that if anybody thought we were getting weird or wild and all over the place. It is a story that I really, it's something that is in my head, and
there's some continuity to it over a 28-year period. Right?
We totally Tarantino'd the shit out of you right there, but I'm glad you stuck with us on it. So we're running a little long here, we're running pretty big here. But what I want to do is I want to ask you, from your dad. So my grandpa, like I said, my favorite person. What would you say is like one of those moments, one of those conversations you had where that was the advice you hold dear and you love thinking about and holding on to that he gave you?
There's really just so many of them. I would hate to try to define.
Belittle any.
Well, that any one of them would define our relationship, because the longer it goes, the more complicated it gets. And I don't mean bad in any way.
No, absolutely.
But I was a really tough, headstrong kid, unlike Matt, who was pretty easy to manage, for lack of a better adjective.
Give me a video game, take me a video game.
Exactly. Which is a whole other topic about why the video console shouldn't be the parent. But that's something else. But no, he, sometimes in what looking in from the outside might seem kind of a tough way. But again, because of my personality, I needed a strong personality. I'm sure I would have ended up in juvenile hall or prison at some point, because I like to try the crazy stuff.
I've heard.
I raced motorcycles and flew airplanes.
You raised your share of hell, as I've heard. Yeah.
Skied at 100 miles an hour behind crazy boats, all before I got out of high school. So
nice.
You had to rein me in pretty hard.
That's good.
So I mean, there really isn't a good moment that would define that. But you've seen him, the big old tough guy.
Oh,
when family's around at those affairs, he can't even talk because he chokes up.
He's he's,
and it's real. It's from the heart.
It
so,
is.
If you make that connection with the people that you love, that it impacts them that way, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's what life's all about. And I really pity people that don't have a good support system and and it doesn't have to be family. It can be friends, but a structure of other humans, other interaction that is valuable to you and that impacts your ability to make decisions, good, bad, and indifferent. We've all made some bad ones. We've over-imbibed. We've been tired.
100%.
We got anxious, or we've been vengeful. We've all done it. It never feels good.
We've all had those moments where it's all gone one way or the other, and exactly. We've all had regrets. Absolutely.
For the most part, I wouldn't do much different though. Good. Certainly not having you.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Yeah, and your sister, we left her out of the whole equation.
Sister is great. She's awesome. Yeah, she doesn't need any shine though. She's good. So awesome. So we can't pick one, and I don't think I could pick one favorite moment from Grandpa. Like the most uncomfortable moment I ever had was at their 60th wedding anniversary, and Auntie Beth and Michelle made me try to pick one moment to remember them by. Like, thank goodness all my other cousins had named some of my also favorite moments. So I was like, okay, the pressure's off.
Plagiarize.
Pressure's off. Yeah. But what about you? So now we're talking about Father's Day, things like that. What's kind of some of your favorite moments of being a dad?
Oh wow, just sort of like today. We're here together doing this.
Yeah.
And this was it's a little less than spontaneous because you showed up yesterday. But I had no idea that you were going to do that. I was on my way home from work, figuring, I don't know exactly, what tournaments I'm going to play in. I was going to go down to the Rio and pre-register from stuff, and your name, showed up. We talk a lot. It never occurred to me that you were in the vicinity. And, I answered the phone, and it's like, hey, Dad. And you were like 2 miles behind me.
Yeah, I was actually
just driven up from LA.
Yeah, so thank goodness for freeway speeds. I actually got ahead of you at one point.
Yeah, you were, but you had driven for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah, or closer to 4 probably. Yeah, and but it was just a conscious decision you made. You rented a car. You were doing your E3 thing. In your business. And hey, I'm awfully close. I'm going to go see the old man. And it's not like we don't see each other, we don't talk, or we have some kind of damaged relationship. No. But that your kid would make that decision instead of hanging out in LA and partying with his buddies who are already still there just kind of makes you feel pretty good as a dad. It's like, hey, maybe not quite as fun as if we just stayed down there. And when they do that, and your sister's done that a zillion times, and your brother Manny, it was a lot the same with him. Yeah. Just there's so many multitudes, and there's no animosity. We're all comfortable. That you hear about these families that the sister hasn't talked to the sister for weeks or months or years. That's nothing we can even get in our heads. Yeah, we've all had our problems. Yeah. We've all had issues with aunts and uncles and cousins. But we plow through them, and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these other functions are absolutely. They're very special.
They are, yeah, they are, especially with our family. I always feel I'm very lucky, and people always ask I have a lot of friends that have very different style families, things like that, and like, Matt, what's your family like, Casillas? And I'm like, I mean, have you ever heard the show The Cleavers? Like, Leave It to Beaver style? Like, we're pretty close to that, just kind of the Mexican version of it. Yeah, pretty close. True that. I remember having Sunday dinners. I remember, my grandpa, after he retired, he became a bus driver to drive us home from school because he wanted to spend more time with us, Exactly. We always gave zero excuse to see family. When we had an opportunity to see family, we saw family. We're a little bit more spread out. And one of the things that actually inspired me to do kind of this stuff, and you're talking about how technology has changed, but we're still doing the same things. Yeah. I remember listening to tapes you would make Little Manny. Yeah. True story. When you guys were apart for a while there. Yeah, and talking to each other. Those were some of the coolest tapes I've ever heard. Does anybody know what those are? Cassettes, yes. So my dad, he would actually record a cassette and talk to my brother and my older brother and tell him how much he loved him, how much he missed him, and here's what was going on, and guess what I saw, and all these things. And then he'd mail off the tape. He'd have the B-side blank, and he had a recorder, so my brother, he could get the tape, and then him and my sister Raina as well could talk to my dad and how's it going, and guess what I saw today and how cool this was.
Those were before unlimited data plans, so landlines and long distance telephone charges.
You want to talk love. This guy had to buy a stamp and go down to the post office to get these things mailed off. Snail mail. He couldn't just throw in some text messages.
More than one now.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Like those. I mean, I think we found 5-6 tapes one time, and we listened to them together even at one point. Still have a couple of them later. And this is the kind of stuff that I love doing. I love getting these types of things, and you know what? This will might hit the internet, and even if this only gets one view ever, I'll have it forever, which is really cool to me.
Well, and beyond that, because I've not felt particularly, welcome to join in this world. It's just not my gig.
No, exactly. Yeah, absolutely, I know, yeah.
But I listen in every once in a while.
Nothing like your dad giving you a like on the YouTube channel. It's a pretty awesome feeling.
And it's kind of. It's kind of, I mean, there's no big surprises in there, you're not some closet psycho or anything, but it's,
I'm not murdering prostitutes.
I'm a little surprised of what I perceive to be a gift of, your ability to ad-lib and to storytell, for lack of a better way to say it. Not meaning that it's untrue or lacks veracity in any way.
No.
But you put things across, whether it's a movie critique or your take on a game or, whatever it might be. You seem to be an unending plethora of that sort of thing.
I prefer cornucopia. Just
okay, that's all right. But I guess beyond this kind of stuff that you can store on some digital media somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have a book or something in there, or some kind of manifesto.
You never know. Nerd Mosh Pit Volume 1 coming out. Maybe we'll see.
And in the end, we all go back to dust. So whatever kind of mark you can make on life.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going to be the next Quentin Tarantino. But I think there's great things in store for you there somewhere. Whatever it is.
I appreciate it.
At whatever level.
Thank you very much. I love you very much,
Best of luck to you. I love you too, champ.
So there was the cheesy hug for you guys. That's all I got for you. We're running a little long right now.
World should have more cheesy hugs. It'd be a better place to live.
But I really appreciate you guys tuning in, checking this out. A little Father Day special, so a little extra Father Day love from MaliceCorp.com. Like I said, you can follow me at TheBigPoppaMatt on Twitter, as well as Malice-Corp.com. Please like, subscribe, everything you guys can do to help. I'm also Son of Maku on my PlayStation, as well as my Snapchat, Instagram, TheBigPoppaMatt. Also follow Nerd Mosh Pit as well. Hit up the website, you guys. Like, subscribe, Malice-Corp.com. It's a great place, great writers, great people. I really do appreciate the time, though. I really can't thank you guys enough. And have a happy Father's Day. Have a happy year. Have a happy summer.
Yeah.
Get more happiness out there. Give more love to people, man. Give someone a call. And even if it's not your real dad, your real family, anything like that, whoever that father figure is, whoever was someone, and you know what? Maybe you don't have one. Maybe you don't have that father figure.
And if you don't, be one to somebody.
Call your mom and be one to somebody else. Give someone an experience that maybe you didn't get. But you know what? Everybody deserves this. Everybody deserves moments like these with their dad. And I'm very lucky to have mine around right now to be able to have these moments. And if you're not, I hope you enjoyed ours.
And me, mine. If your grandpa sees this, he's gonna be boobing while he's watching.
Well, he's next. My
we love
next.
you, Grandpa.
Absolutely, he's next. So, thank you guys again. Like, subscribe, love y'all. Thank you very much.